Welcome to the presentation on selection bias. I'd like to start the presentation by explaining what scientific studies are. Most scientific studies aim to prove the effect of something. This might be the effect of a condition on developing a disease or injury, or the effect of an intervention like a treatment on overcoming a particular problem. Because it is not possible to study the entire target population, in most cases, a sample is studied instead. Samples drawn from this target population are used to estimate what is occurring or what might occur in the whole population. One group is exposed to the condition or intervention and the other group is not. The difference is then measured and the differences are reported. What is bias? Bias can be defined as any deviation from the truth. This may be systematic errors that encourage one outcome over another. Therefore, what is selection bias? Selection bias is when there is systematic differences between the baseline characteristics of the groups that are being compared. It is usually associated with research where the selection of participants isn't random. The researcher decides to study a particular group of people and compare it to another group of people. So an example of this selection bias would be if we wanted to study the effects of running on the incidence of disease prevention. You study a group of people who run and then a group of people who don't run. You record the health problems that occur in both groups. You might conclude that the running group has less diseases than the group that did not run, but in truth the two groups might have been very different to begin with. The non-runners may have had pre-existing health issues, less healthy diets, etc. Another example of selection bias is when it is caused by systematic differences between those who are selected for a study and those who are not. This can commonly occur when people volunteer to participate in a study. The people who volunteer for a study are likely to be characteristically different from people who chose not to take part in the study. So an example of this type of selection bias would be if you have administered a program to improve the eating habits and overall health of students at a university. You advertise the study around the university and invite them to take part in the study. It is likely the people who sign up are generally more health conscious than those who do not, which is why they are interested in a program to improve their eating habits. Therefore, you could not conclude that the program will be successful at improving eating habits and overall health for all university students because the health of those that took part is likely to be better than those that did not take part. Due to self-selection, there are likely to be other factors that affected the health of the students. Another type of selection bias is when it is arising from the way in which studies were selected for inclusion in a systematic review. So how do researchers limit selection bias? There's a few ways. Participants are randomly assigned to the study or control group. So for example, randomized controlled studies or RCTs. However, selection bias can still occur in RCTs. For example, it may be that the pool of people being randomly assigned to the intervention group is not very representative of the wider population. Some other ways that it can be limited is to include as many people in the study as they can, to match groups of people in the study and control groups as best they can, using the variable associated with selection in the analysis, weighting responses, predicting the effects of the bias, to mention selection bias in their reports and recognise the level to which results may be affected. Often selection bias is unavoidable, so it's really important that researchers plan their studies to limit it, examine their studies for it, adjust for it, and acknowledge it in their reporting. Thank you.